A couple guys were, I think, very, very appreciative and got some things healed up during the bye week. Obviously, a guy like BA, but just several other guys that just were hobbled up. And it was good to get them their downtime. So, tremendous challenge for us on Saturday. Have a lot of respect for what Auburn's been able to do this year. Obviously, a very good football team, very explosive on offense, been very good on defense, and taking advantage of opportunities in the kicking game. So. Another good SEC opponent, one that we're excited to play. Hopefully have a great crowd. Obviously with the 5 o'clock kickoff, should have a good couple hours of warm-up for everybody involved and be a great environment.
You guys just need to score some points.
Well, anytime you have lacked the ability to get on the scoreboard, I think the guys are eager, they're hungry. And sometimes when we got down there, guys might have just tensed up so much just to get that ball in the end zone that we got to execute and put it in there and find a way to make it happen.
Did I hear you say on the radio last night you guys are college buddies or some group of friends of yours?
You know, 2 things. There's a big group out there today. Dale Hackbart, who was a great player at the University of Wisconsin, actually shared a backfield with Mr. Lindsey when they were with the Vikings. I didn't even know that till I came here, and there's a group of pretty significant loyal fans and boosters that they've been coming down here the last 20 years. And I popped in the radio show. They were there last night. And then I have 5 of my college buddies that I went to school at the University of Iowa coming down. So I won't be with them, but they will be out and about in Fayetteville. It's kind of a neat weekend for them because they, ever since I've been the head coach at Wisconsin, they've never really been able to cheer for our alumni when they played in the Iowa-Wisconsin game. I'm sure it'll be a well-watched game for tomorrow.
You talked a lot on the radio show yesterday about where you all are going and recruiting stuff. I didn't have enough time to grab on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Let me see. That was last Sunday. Last Sunday we flew into St. Louis. You know, that's an area that I'm excited to get into. I know it was one of those common areas that right away I think was a common area for me at Wisconsin that we'd recruited, and vice versa. Could be a good area for us just because of location. And popped in a few schools in there, then went to Denver. After Denver, went to Minneapolis. Get back to my roots, that was the first state that I was ever given as a 23-year-old assistant coach at the University of Iowa. I remember how cold it was. Should have remembered that because we went there and it was 34 degrees and I had on a pair of slacks and a golf shirt and and we went to what I thought was going to be a nice, simple walkthrough, and it was a 2-hour practice. So that was a little bit chilling. Then hopped on a plane and we flew out to the East Coast, made a couple stops out there, and then flew back on Tuesday morning. And then, yep.
I was going to ask just how much emphasis has been in the state of Florida.
You mean in recruiting as well? You know, I just have a lot of coaches with ties there. Not only myself, I've been recruiting there since 1994. Obviously, Randy's born and raised and a head coach in Miami, and Charlie Partridge born and raised in Florida. A lot of my coaches had ties to there or have known coaches for a long time. I was kind of shocked, to be quite honest, when I first got here and realized how little Arkansas had recruited Florida. I just, you know, I never had really noticed. You notice when you recruit down there how many other SEC schools, and they just had not gone into that area for whatever reason. So I would say our basic, there's a lot more to it, but our basic recruiting plan, I knew we had to have success in Arkansas because of proximity and because of the people involved. I knew Texas had to be huge, but also because of our immediate access to players and knowledge of recruitable guys and reputation. I knew that Florida was going to have to be big for us, and obviously it was last year and will be again this year for us. And then we're really, I got all of our guys into the traditional SEC area, but then all of them have kind of like a out of kilter, out of area, geographic area from the SEC. You know, we have a guy in Ohio, a guy in Chicago, a guy in Minnesota, a guy in Jersey and New York. We got a guy in Denver. We got a guy in California. So it's a little bit out of the norm, but something that hopefully will work.
Because of this, everything that's been said this week, and even the summer about hurry-up offenses, the doing the strange stuff, and I know you've never talked about particular discussion with them. What are you hoping to be able to talk to them about when you guys kind of first meet for the first time Saturday?
I have no idea. I remember going into my first year as a head coach. I was during the summer. I was sitting there thinking, like, what am I going to go to the 50 and shake Jim Tressel's hand and talk about? What am I going to talk about with Joe Paterno? What am I going to talk about? And usually I just sat there and listened because those guys will talk. I think that there's probably from my end, and I know I saw Gus's comments. I mean, you respect coaches that win. Both he and I have obviously won some games at previous places we've been. I admire his path just because he was a high school coach. I didn't know he was from Arkansas, to be quite honest. I didn't obviously know that until I got here and heard the whole story. I remember just hearing about it for the first time because we played Arkansas in our bowl game the first year, which is his first year as a coordinator, and obviously the whole story that went into there. And then obviously after his departure here and his departure from Tulsa, and his departure from Auburn, his departure, from Arkansas State, you just hear a lot about things and a lot of respect. And I respect coaches on that staff too. I know some of their assistants obviously very well. And it's a little bit more for the outside world. There isn't a lot of hoopla over what was said. Honest to goodness, now the summer meetings, the whole no huddle thing, that just played perfectly into you all's hands. I mean, I had no idea what he had said. I mean, that was a bunch of that was just the perfect storm for you guys to write headlines. And then the stuff on the film was just obviously something that came up and was taken care of.
With it being senior day, have you seen any extra effort, emphasis? How important is this?
The thing that excites me, I think, not only extra emphasis from our seniors, but all of our players. I think they can only respect those guys that have survived and advanced to get to where they are today. I know defensively, it was very apparent to me that, Chris Smith, Byron Jones, Robert Thomas had a lot of respect in that room. I think Jay Lake and Eric Bennett, because of what they've been able to do, have gained respect in the room as well. And then on offense, don't have a lot of seniors, but how can you not respect Travis Swanson and Akiro Small? Herndon and the elements that he's gone through. Julian Horton is hopefully playing his best football down the stretch here, and fun to watch that. And then there's a lot of guys on the outside. Austin Tate, who went through surgery after last fall, and the surgery again this fall camp, and persevered to get to where he is. And then an unwritten hero in this whole, and I call it the Groza Award. One of the things I really believe in as a head coach, you have an obligation to honor your seniors as best you possibly can. My first year, I remember when I was at the University of Wisconsin, I called every Outland voter about 3 weeks out from the vote and just expressed how much I thought of Joe Thomas. And a lot of them are like, I've never received a head coach phone call, and I kind of was amazed at that because I was a rookie coach, but it made a big statement to me there. If I have a player that deserves national recognition, I'm going to do everything I can to get it. So I called all the people that are up for the Groza that would, the best kicker in college football, because I think Zach Hocker's that guy. There's no doubt in my mind that he's he's only had one miss, and that's because we got it blocked. And I don't know how many returnable balls we've had the whole season on kickoffs, including 2 from the 20-yard line. And he's just so into it. Anytime you have a senior kicker that gets votes for captain, you got something special. So my hat goes off to him. He's a tremendous football player.
Knowing the senior class and their history the past couple of years, do you think this is probably one of the toughest things that any kind of senior class has ever gone through?
Everybody's different, but yeah, I mean, they didn't. I'm sure they didn't review what was going to happen during their official visit or any of their subsequent visits or on signing day. They couldn't envision what happened to them. But you know what? In the world of college football, a lot of bad things happen, a lot of good things happen. But you have injuries, you have setbacks, you have coaches transfer, you have coaches that you sign with that you don't end up with. Obviously as a head coach, I had to leave a room that killed me. But for what I want to do and what we want to accomplish, that needed to happen. And with that, I created a whole. And what's is the case, like I get calls and texts and emails and all the time from my former players and current players that are still, there, and all they want is advice. All they want is things that we talked about them in recruiting, and I gladly can do that. But college football is it's an unusual world. Nate?
You mentioned that in the radio show that you had some players that you could see kind of removing themselves from the program. I'm wondering, these last 4 games, are basically some people kind of playing to be a part of, or some of the underclassmen playing to be a part of what you got going next year?
I don't know. I guess what I was referencing, there's some people that aren't really playing or aren't even with the team right now that, obviously will transition out that aren't seniors. Not a lot of them, just 2 or 3. I think if you're on the roster and you're practicing today, I'm planning on you being there. There are a couple kids that I think during fall camp came into me and expressed an interest in transferring. I at the time said, hey, why don't you give us the fall, unless it was a kid that affected his eligibility or something like that. I more than encouraged them to, let's see how this year goes. Let's get ourselves, we'll be able, rather than 5 days before the start of school, why don't you give us a couple months? Like if you still in December don't feel like you want to be here, and I feel the same way, then why don't we try to find something together? I would much rather work with someone through a difficult situation than work against them. I'd look at Mikhail McKay. He obviously caught some balls for Cincinnati and doing some good things. And as much as I would have loved that to be here, it just wasn't working. So Braylon or Brandon Mitchell, another kid. He's starting at NC State, and I know they're going through struggles as well. But it wasn't going to be a great situation here. We probably would have ended up very, very poor. So why not try to give someone a chance to have success, if that makes sense?
A couple more. Do you get the sense that you're on the cusp of playing better on both sides of the ball and having a better effort?
I certainly hope so, and I know you're going to get tired. But as a head coach, everybody's asking, like, Coach, what do you've never gone through this. Well, I've gone through this. I went through it as an assistant coach. I went through it as a little bit as a coordinator. I remember back being 1-10 with Kirk Ferentz at Iowa after some really great years with Hayden Fry, and Kirk would always just talk about, hey, there's these things that are changing. Do you see this? You see that? Today we had an academic meeting, and I know I said this 2 weeks ago, but I can literally see it today because we changed a number of F's into B's and C's, and D's into a couple A's, and we didn't have anybody late for any type of lifting group this week for the first time in the history since I've been here. There's just so many little things that show you where we're going, and to create the culture that I need, or that we need to have success. I just wasn't going to skip any steps. I remember sitting back that first year and saying, man, did we really have to be 1-10? Did we have to be 3-8 year 2? And at the time I couldn't understand it, but in the end I did, because then they went on for an unbelievable run of years, and I knew I couldn't. If I tried to skip a step to get to where I wanted to be, it was never going to be as great when we got there. It wasn't going to sustain it as long. It wasn't going to be there as permanently. And that's why I came. It was to set a new standard and do something on a consistent basis over the period of time that will give us success for a long, long time.
Last one.
Been instructed by my athletic communications to wait till tomorrow. They're going to announce it on Twitter so they can scoop you guys. But I say Robert and I. This is the guy that Robert wanted to go with initially, and then I just because he didn't know if for a senior standpoint, I wanted to be a senior if we could. But tomorrow being senior day, is going to go to an underclassman and someone who's really during my time. Come a long ways, and I think Robert acknowledges as well, because it's a guy that he brought under his wing and has done some really good things for.
Just to clarify on that, Robert seemed to be under the impression that pretty much had to be D lineman because of the size of his jersey and things like that, but is that not true?
It's baby steps with Robert, yes. I made him believe that because I wanted to select a D lineman at first, and then the second one is as well. So the one, I'll say this, he wanted Travis Swanson to wear his jersey the first game, but obviously we can't do that because of an eligibility, with a number. So there are some parameters, but for the last 3 games, I'll explain to him that we can special order a jersey to wear 98.
All right, you want
Yeah.
to get into the fourth quarter and have a chance.
I can answer a couple more because I don't want to go home and hand out candy.
The fourth quarter's been your guys' worst offensive.
We haven't had a good quarter yet, first day.
Best defensive quarter, too. They've only given up like 23 points all year in the fourth quarter. So what kind of situation does that feel like?
It's first, second, third, fourth quarter. We're going to try and score points offensively. A lot of times, some of the games that Auburn's been in, they've obviously been in tight ball games that they needed to hold on to the football. They've been in some games where they were probably playing some of their subs. So it is what it is. I think you got to play stronger as the game goes on, and it's been a goal of ours to play a 4-quarter game, and obviously we haven't been able to do that. Even our 3 victories, we probably didn't play a full, complete 4-quarter game in any of those. So once we get to that plateau, we're going to have success.
I was watching the Monday night game, and they were interviewing Russell Wilson afterwards, and I wasn't watching, I was doing something else, but I could have sworn they got done here and he said, "Go Hogs."
No,
Did
I think he usually says go Hawks. I've had that question a few times, yeah, Seahawks. But if you want to believe it, hey, you know what, here's the kind of kid he is. Monday after the Alabama game, I was running around all over the country recruiting, and I remember I got off a plane and there was a page-and-a-half text from Russell Wilson just saying how much he thinks of me, and he loves my wife and I, and it was just, like, I'm thinking, here's a kid that is lighting the world of NFL football, living his dream, and the comments that he made in that text were off the charts, and it just shows you that if you continue to get to a type of player that cares, and now Russell Wilson is you may only have one in a lifetime, but even to get somebody half of what he is, he is extremely effective in people's lives, way beyond what anybody can even imagine. He's truly a special human being. I think he said go Hogs. I'm going to stay with that.